Welcome back to ChronosX Documentary. This is the channel where history doesn't just get told, it gets felt. Every story we bring you takes you somewhere, another time, another world, another life. If you're new here, hey, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button right now, ring the bell, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. And if you've been here before, welcome back, ChronosX family. Good to have you. Now, today's video. Today, we talk about a woman who faced a dictator and didn't blink, a woman who stood at the gates of power when that power wanted to crush her, a woman who sold flowers to feed poor children and then rose to lead a nation of 200 million people. She didn't just break the glass ceiling, she shattered it. This is the story of Megawati Sukarnoputri, the lioness of Indonesia, from the day she was born to the last chapter of her extraordinary life. Let's begin. Close your eyes for a second. It's January 23rd, 1947, the city of Yogyakarta, Indonesia. The sky is heavy with clouds. Rain is falling, slowly at first, then harder. And somewhere in that rain, a baby girl is born. They name her Megawati. In Sanskrit, Megawati means the goddess of clouds. They say they named her that because when she came into this world, the clouds had already gathered, as if the sky itself was announcing her arrival. But here's the thing about this little girl. She was no ordinary child. Her father was Sukarno, the Sukarno, the man who stood up to 350 years of Dutch colonial rule and, on August 17, 1945, declared Indonesia free. He became the very first president of Indonesia, and her mother, Fatmawati, was a woman of extraordinary dignity, a woman who, with her own two hands, sewed the red and white flag that flew on that Independence Day. So this little girl, Megawati, she wasn't born into an ordinary home. She was born into history. She grew up in Merdeka Palace, the presidential palace. While other children played in alleyways and dirt roads, Megawati's home had world leaders walking through its halls. Presidents, prime ministers, revolutionaries, diplomats. This was her childhood. But you know what's beautiful? Her mother, Fatmawati, never let her forget simplicity. Despite the palace, despite the power, despite the fame. Fatmawati raised her daughter with humility, with groundedness, with a connection to real people. And that would become Megawati's greatest weapon. Not politics, not speeches, her simplicity. Now, happy childhoods don't always lead to easy youth. And for Megawati, the pain came early. She enrolled at Pajajaran University in Bandung, studying agriculture. She was a regular student, learning, growing. And then 1967 happened. General Suharto, a military man, quietly, methodically seized power from her father. There were no bombs, no open war, just a slow, calculated political takeover. Sukarno, the great liberator of Indonesia, was placed under house arrest. He couldn't leave, he couldn't meet people, he couldn't speak freely. And his daughter, Megawati, made a decision. She left university, she gave up her education, and she went to be with her father. Think about that for a moment. She chose her father over her future. She sat with him. She cared for him. She watched a great man slowly fade under the weight of house arrest and heartbreak. And then, in 1970, the darkest day of her life came. Her father, Sukarno, passed away. The man who freed a nation, the man she called Bapa, father, was gone. Megawati was broken inside. Anyone would be. But she tried to move forward. She enrolled again, this time at the University of Indonesia, studying psychology. Maybe she was trying to understand her own pain. Maybe she was looking for answers. But Suharto's government wouldn't leave her alone. Pressure was applied. Interference came. And once again, her education was left unfinished. 2 universities, both incomplete. Not because she wasn't capable, but because power was afraid of her. Now, let's talk about something more personal, because behind every great leader is a human being with a heart. Megawati's first marriage was to a man named Surindro, but it didn't last. The relationship ended in divorce. She was young. She moved on. Her second marriage was to Hassan Gabi Kar, an Egyptian pilot. She loved him. They built a life. And then, in 1970, the same year her father died, her husband died in a plane crash. Let that settle. In one single year, she lost her father and her husband. I don't know how a person carries that kind of weight, but Megawati carried it. She didn't collapse. She didn't disappear. She kept going. In 1973, she married for the third time to Taufik Kimas, a writer, a journalist, a thinker. And this was the partnership that would last. Taufik stood by her through everything, the political battles, the threats, the defeats. He was her anchor. Sadly, he passed away in 2013. Megawati and Taufik had 3 children together, Muhammad Rizki, Prananda Prabowo, and a daughter. Okay, before we get into the politics, I need to tell you something that I absolutely love about this woman. 1979. Megawati is in her early 30s. She's the daughter of a former president. She could have lived a comfortable, privileged life. But what does she do? She opens a flower shop. I'm serious. With some of her friends, she opens a small flower shop in Jakarta. But here's the twist. Every single rupiah of profit from that flower shop went directly to running kindergartens for poor children. The daughter of Indonesia's founding father, selling flowers to educate children who had nothing. When people heard about this, and they did hear about it, it wasn't like a PR campaign. It wasn't staged. It was just her. And that's exactly why ordinary Indonesians fell in love with her. Not because of her last name, because of who she was. Now we come to 1986, and here's where it gets interesting. Suharto, the same man who removed Megawati's father from power, decides to give Sukarno the title of national hero. It was a political move, a calculation, but it backfired. Her father's legacy, her own simplicity, her connection to real people. After 30 years of Suharto's iron grip, Indonesians were tired, and in Megawati, they saw something they hadn't seen in a long time: hope. December 1993, the PDI National Congress. Inside those halls, the majority of the party had already made up their minds. They wanted Megawati. She walked out to the press conference and made it clear, "I am the leader of this party. The people have chosen me." Suharto's government refused to recognize her. They dismissed her. They ignored her. But the people, they recognized her. And by 1994, her leadership was officially confirmed. And that's when Suharto knew, this woman is dangerous. June 1996, Suharto makes his move. A faction within the PDI, backed by the government, announces that Megawati is being removed as party leader. It was manufactured. It was political. It was dirty. But it was happening. July 1996. Megawati's supporters flood the streets of Jakarta. They gather outside the PDI headquarters. They're not armed. They're not violent. They're just people. Ordinary people who believe in their leader. And then the government sends in the forces. The headquarters is cleared, violently. And then the city erupts. The worst riots Jakarta had seen in over 20 years. People died. Hundreds were arrested. Buildings burned. And Megawati, she stood still. She looked at her supporters and she said, "Be patient. Our time will come." That kind of calm, in the middle of that kind of storm, that's not weakness, that's leadership. 1998. Indonesia is burning, not with fire, but with crisis. The Asian financial collapse hits Indonesia like a tidal wave. Poverty spikes. Unemployment explodes. The price of everything skyrockets. Students pour into the streets. Not hundreds, thousands. Protests turn into riots. Riots turn into something bigger. May 1998. Jakarta sees some of the bloodiest unrest in its history. And then, May 21st, 1998, Suharto resigned. 32 years. 32 years of one man's iron rule. And it was over. Just like that. In October 1998, Megawati founded a new party, PDIP, the Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle. The word struggle was no accident. She had earned that word. June 1999. Parliamentary elections. PDIP wins 34% of the vote, more than any other party. Megawati was now the most popular political leader in the entire country. The presidency felt inevitable. And here is where the story takes a painful turn. Everyone expected it. The people expected it. The world expected it. Megawati's party won the most votes. She should have been president. But in Indonesia at that time, the president wasn't chosen directly by the people. It was the People's Consultative Assembly, a body of politicians, who made that call. And on October 20th, 1999, they chose Abdurrahman Wahid, known as Gus Dur, not Megawati. The country erupted. Riots broke out across Bali and Java. Megawati's supporters were furious, heartbroken, betrayed, and Megawati, once again, stayed calm. The next day, October 21st, 1999, as a compromise, Megawati was elected vice president. She accepted. Some people said she should have fought back, should have refused. But here's what I think. She knew. She was patient. She was waiting. Because her time was coming. By 2001, President Wahid's government was falling apart. Corruption allegations, clashes with parliament, a government in chaos. And then, July 23, 2001, the People's Consultative Assembly voted to remove Wahid from office. And in that same session, on that same historic day, Megawati Sukarnoputri took the oath of office as the 5th president of Indonesia. In that moment, she became the first woman to ever lead Indonesia, the first elected Muslim woman to lead any nation on earth, and the daughter of the man who built this nation from nothing. Across the country, people wept. They celebrated in the streets. Old people who had lived through Sukarno's era cried when they saw his daughter take that oath. Sukarno's daughter was sitting in Sukarno's chair. History had come full circle. Now, I won't sugarcoat this. The presidency was not easy. And Megawati faced some of the most difficult challenges any leader could face. October 2002, a bomb tears through a nightclub district in Bali. 202 people dead, nearly 300 wounded. The deadliest terrorist attack in Indonesian history. The world's eyes turned to Megawati. She responded with strength. The perpetrators were hunted down and arrested. She showed the world that Indonesia would not be broken by terror. In the northern province of Aceh, a separatist movement had been fighting for independence for years. Megawati first tried peace. She signed ceasefires. She negotiated. But when those efforts failed, she made a hard call. In 2003, she launched a full military operation in Aceh. It was controversial. It was painful. But she made the decision she believed was necessary to keep her country whole. Her own parliament building was bombed, the very heart of Indonesian democracy, targeted. And on top of all this, poverty, unemployment, and allegations of corruption haunted her government. Critics said she was too slow to make decisions, too quiet when the country needed fire. Were those criticisms fair? Some of them, maybe. But here's what she did do. She kept Indonesia together. She didn't let the country fracture. She defended democracy when it was fragile. And that matters. September 20th, 2004. For the first time in Indonesia's history, the people voted directly for their president. Megawati's opponent was a former military general, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, known as SBY. He was younger, he was fresh, he promised change, and he won. Megawati lost. But here's what she did next that I think defines her character more than anything else. In October 2004, she handed over power, peacefully, gracefully, with dignity, no drama, no refusal, no claims of fraud. She accepted the result. In a country that had only recently escaped 32 years of dictatorship, that peaceful transfer of power was not small. That was huge. That was Megawati giving Indonesia a gift. The gift of democratic norms. Now, some people would have walked away after 2 election losses. Many politicians would have quietly disappeared. Not Megawati. In 2009, she ran again. She lost again to SBY, who won a second term. But still, she didn't quit. 2014, and this is where she does something remarkable. Megawati looks around Indonesia and finds a man, a simple man, a furniture maker from Solo. A man nobody in the political elite took seriously. His name, Joko Widodo, Jokowi. She picks him. She puts the full weight of her party, her legacy, her name, Behind this ordinary man, people laughed. The elite scoffed. "Who is this carpenter?" they said. Jokowi won. He became the 7th president of Indonesia, and in 2019, he won again. Megawati could have chosen someone who would keep her powerful. Instead, she chose someone she believed would serve the people. That's not the move of someone hungry for power. That's the move of a true statesperson. Today, in 2025, Megawati Sukarnoputri is 78 years old, and she is still in the arena, still leading PDIP, still fighting. In the 2024 elections, Prabowo Subianto won the presidency. PDIP now sits in opposition. But Megawati? She hasn't stepped back. So why will history remember her? 1. She stood up to a 32-year dictatorship, alone, without blinking. 2. She proved that a Muslim-majority nation could elect a woman as its leader. 3. She handed over power peacefully, twice, when democracy demanded it. 4. She was Sukarno's daughter, but she built her own identity, her own legacy. 5. She chose a simple man over political convenience and changed Indonesia's future. She sold flowers. She lost her father. She lost her husband. She lost elections. She was pushed out, threatened, sidelined, and every single time she came back. That, my friends, is not just history. That is a lesson. And that was the complete story of Megawati Sukarnoputri, a girl born in a palace during a rainstorm, who sold flowers to feed poor children, who faced a dictator and didn't run, who lost and came back, who won and led with dignity, who stepped down and then helped someone else rise. History always has something to teach us, and today's lesson is simple. Never give up. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It means more than you know. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Because on ChronosX documentary, every story is worth your time. Drop a comment below. Tell me, whose story should we tell next? I read every single one. Until next time, stay curious, stay humble, and remember, those who read history are the ones who make it. Take care, everyone. Allah Hafiz.